An anarcho-communist case against intellectual property. There are many different versions of intellectual property, mostly copyright and patent. That's where more of the science and technology stuff to give in. But I consider it extremely harmful and straight up dangerous because it prevents creativity and innovation because it oppresses domination of the people's intellectual creativity. And when people have that power of abuse, they will sue them. And these people may sue them, and these people who may so happen to be already poor may lose their entire livelihoods. And because we live in a capitalist society where profit is above human lives, people can actually die because of intellectual property in many cases, or just do not spend certain amount of money to think they should be more beneficial to society, or in this case, the workers who are trying their best, not die. For example, the economy must accept the rules of its operation. Rules that, for example, allow contracts to be enforced, forbid using another's property without his or her consent, with theft, trespass, copyright infringement, etc. Prohibit conspiracy, quote unquote, unlawful assembly, rioting, and so on, and create monopolies through regulation, licensing, charters, patents, etc. This means that capitalism has to include the mechanism for deterring property crimes as well as mechanism for compensation and punishment should such crimes be committed. That's why anarcho-capitalism cannot be a thing. For example, copyleft use copyright to ensure that software punishment, or not software punishment, in my case, software remains free. It ensures that a piece of software is made available to everyone and used and modified as they desire. In addition, unlike under capitalism where inventors often carefully hide their inventions from each other as they are hampered by patents and capitalism, that being oppresses society, the stumbling block in the path of intellectual and moral progress. Inventors within a free society will be able to build upon the knowledge of everyone and past generation. With China is the closest we can get to not use patents, at least in a traditional sense. Then there are numerous state interventions which exist to ensure that certain activities become efficient or profitable to be more accurate, such as specifying and defending intellectual property rights that limit liability of corporations and enforcing capitalist property rights in land, for example. While we take this activity for granted when evaluating capitalism, there are serious imperfections in the market, and for me, the free market is inherently ableist. It is prejudiced against people with mental and physical disability. And so one counts as an efficient use of resources. Other states' intervention aim to reduce uncertainty and stability of the market, stabilize the market, such as welfare maintain aggregated demands. The other capitalist monopoly were based on credit, tariffs, and patents, and were reflected and supported by the law, which is again enforced using by violence and supporting the state. As far as tariffs went, this was sent as fostering production at a high price, which the workers pay for. Its abolition will result in a great reduction in the prices of all article tax. With capitalists in the protected industry being unable to reap high profits, they will be unable to accumulate capital to the same degree, and so the market will also become more equals. As for patents, you know, should be abolished. Intellectual property should be abolished altogether, even in a free market anarchist, system. Government subsidies provide an important way for companies to fund their research and development at taxpayers' expense, which often yields with great commercial potential as consumer product, for example, computers. Needless to say, all the profits to go to the defense contracts, which is killing people, and to the commercial companies who buy license to patent technologies for them, rather than, being shared with the public, which fund the art at the research and development that made the profits possible. Thus, militarism is a key means of securing technology advances within capitalism. Government subsidy to arms companies in agribusiness is subsidized of the research and development work undertaken by government supported in universities. Is spent to ensure a favorable international climate for business operations. Its defense of intellectual property right is for reform, i.e. the business agenda eliminating citizen power to to sue corporations. Its manipulation of unemployment rates and to thwart or other samples of state intervention which can, by no stretch of the imagination, be, considered as, anything free or just or egalitarian, as many of the liberals try to say, or even anarchists who defend the market in general. And the means to target companies that are able to outbid smaller companies for resources, ideas, etc., and put more money into research and development and buy patents. Therefore, they can have a technological and material advantage over small companies. They can charge uneconomic prices for time and still survive to their resources, an activity called predatory pricing, and or mount lavish promotional campaigns to gain target market share or drive competitors out of the market. In addition, it is easier for large companies to raise, at the external capital, and risk is, external tax or enemies. In addition, large firms can have a major impact on innovation and development of technology. They can simply absorb newer, smaller enterprises by way of their economic power, buying out and thus controlling new ideas, much of the way oil companies hold patents of variety of alternative energy resources and technology which they have fought to develop in order to reduce competition for their products. Of course, in some future day when, the environment destroys itself because of capitalism, they are forced to be more communistic, but also when control of the market is secure, oligopolies will usually delay innovation to maximize their power and profit. Meanwhile, while thundering against unions, the mainstream economic professors remain strangely silent on the impact of big business and pro-capitalist monopoly like patents and copyrights on distribution, and so the impact of wages on unemployment because they use that to not give better workers' rights. What I'm trying to say is this means, of course, limiting the discovery potential of others, not only innovation but the potential of the worker, like the state enforcing copyright, stop the independent discovery of the same ideas, progress, or product. Capitalists are core use a number of techniques to stop the spread of new products or production methods in order to maintain their position and power, such as state-enforced intellectual property rights. And that's why psychological studies show people who are higher in the hierarchy are more psychopathic and have less feelings of empathy in general. This is why they used it to create war to prevent more suffering and prevent innovation. In fact, since the 70s, we already met the material preconditions to become an anarcho-communist civilization. Not only on Pacific countries, but potentially before the rise of neoliberalism and the conservative revolution of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, it can apply to the whole planet. Yeah, for 15 years, we already have the ability to become an anarcho-communist society. We already have the means, the production, the technology to reduce worker hours to 3 hours a day, etc. But when the 70s, the same time when neoliberalism came out the rise, all that stuff and innovation has been on decline ever since. And while companies like SpaceX or their innovation, they're using the same technologies of NASA. And they're taking and Elon Musk taking the credit of all the workers involved. When in reality, we already have the technology to basically colonize the solar system since the 70s. But because profit is more priority than actual innovation, we are stuck in this technological stagnation for 50 plus years. This is why that capitalism does not progress at all. Even when it does, it only does it for profit. And when it doesn't for profit, it's a very slow pace. This is why we need to replace the profit model completely and become an anarcho-communist society because, like I said, we already have the material preconditions to become one. The internet is an example of an anarcho-communist system at work. The internet, with digital money, may abolish money altogether. Hong Kong, in technical terms, has already abolished to an extent money as rely almost purely on digital money at this point. And China is going to continue this trend in general, and the United States is going to follow to compete with China, which means in the future, money, at least in a physical like currency, will be technically obsolete and everything will be digital money, aka it will become a socialist type economy because if it's digital, it has no actual value for the capitalists anymore as it used to, unless they find a way to make copyright of money itself, which will become a disaster. Or when they go to space travel, if they found a way to privatize anything space related, yeah, like the transhumanists, which again, it becomes a certainty in the future, especially in our lifetime, depending where you are born, of course. Is the only they will have the benefits of new emerging technologies because of patent and intellectual property and the concept of money itself, instead of everybody else who should share. Because we have the sense is because anarchism is transhumanism, transhumanism is anarchism, a morphological freedom. And we need to stop this. We need to create an egalitarian, free, rational, environmentally friendly society.